agus an oltaithan dearna an fihe cheol Oireachtas loidir agus sáilear gur chearc go an deis agus an ceartach daoine Oireachtas obair ag bhíonn 65 agus an pension a bheith acu agus baineann seo siimplí le cearta agus le caithfimid na féine. Nuair a bhíonn daoine 65 bliain dhís agus sreite acu agus iad gobaid bí chearc go an chans acu Oireachtas tá go seala na deanta acu tá go céine na íciachta acu agus bethór go an cearta sin buinte amach acu cearta go ceart acu Oireachtas obaid ag level 65 agus an pensionna eil ach níl seo le foiil acu agus tá sé sáilear go bhfuil an rialtas go fáil ag dúil tú seo. The last general election in 2020, voters sent a very clear and loud message that people have the right to retire at the age of 65. And this is simply about fairness. When people have reached the age of 65, they have worked their shifts and they have paid their dues. And if you're working on your feet all day, whether it's in a construction site, in a hairdresser or in hospitality or on the factory floor, you can't be expected to continue working beyond the pension age. All workers, when they reach that age, must be given the freedom to choose to retire, to work on if they wish to, or to retire. Workers need to know that government will treat them fairly and to protect their rights. But let's be clear, this is a government and indeed two parties that actually legislated to increase the retirement age to 68. It was only Sinn Féin and public pressure at the last election that put a stop to that. And people have been waiting now for years for the government to outline a very clear roadmap and hoping that that roadmap would tell them that they have the right to down tools at the age of 65 if they choose to. But they will be sorely disappointed today, because what this government is telling that brickie, that hairdresser, that waitress, is that you don't have the right to retire at the age of 65, that they have again let you down, that this government has fudged their responsibility and they are abandoning workers in this regard. The various options developed and the data gathered by the Pension Commission made it clear that it was possible to put the Social Insurance Fund on a sustainable footing and afford the people the right to retire on a pension at the age of 65. But despite this, the plan announced today still doesn't give workers the right to retire at the age of 65. Now, this is a core commitment that we in Sinn Féin would deliver in government. Sinn Féin's proposal to increase employers' PRSI on the portion of pay above €100,000 would immediately cover the cost of introducing the right to retire on a pension for those who have reached the age of 65 years. We're clear about delivering this important right in a way that is sustainable and gives workers certainty and security. And this is security that people at work today need, in construction sites, in restaurants, in hairdressers, on the factory floor, right across the state. People who need to prepare and plan, and who deserve to know that after a lifetime of work, they'll be treated with fairness, they'll be treated with respect by a system that they've paid into all their lives. So, Taoiseach, I ask you today, because workers do need to know, why is this government still refusing to give people the right to retire at the age of 65 on a pension if they choose to? And when will the government wake up to the reality and treat workers with the respect that they deserve? Yeah.
Thanks very much, Deputy. You may recall in the 2020 election that the parties that now form the government, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil and the Greens, won 51% of the vote. That is why we're the government, and you're not. Let's not forget that. Getting a plurality of the vote is not a majority, quite far from it. When it comes to the issue that you raise, which is state pension, the government has decided that the state pension age will remain at 66. People have the choice to retire later if they so wish. They can retire at 67, 68, 69 or 70. And if they do so, they will get an increased state pension. But the default pension age remains 66, and anyone who's reached the age of 66 can at that point draw down their state pension. The state pension has been at 66 for quite some time now. I think it's maybe 10 years that the retirement age, state pension age in Ireland has been 66, and indeed that is the age in Northern Ireland, and your party voted for 66 in Northern Ireland, which we should not forget. We did take a decision that we wouldn't raise the pension age beyond 66. Other countries are doing that, reflecting the fact that demographics are changing, but we've decided not to raise the pension age to 67, and that comes with a cost, and we'll have to cover that cost by increasing very gradually employers' self-employed and employees PRSI over the course of the next number of years. And we've set out the schedule as to how that will be done, with the first increase of 0.1% in October of next year. And in a full year, that will cost the average worker about 45 or 50 euros. That is the cost of not raising the pension age, and that is a cost, I think, that most people will be willing to bear. In addition to that, we're making further reforms to the PRSI system. We believe that work should pay, and that if you pay more money into the Social Insurance Fund, you should get more benefits as a result. And part of the reforms that Mr Humphreys is bringing in is that if people are made unemployed, if they lose their job, for the first few months after they lose their job, they won't get paid the basic job seekers rate. They'll get paid a higher rate, a little bit like was the case under the pandemic unemployment payment. And I think that's an important step forward as well. I hope it's something that the opposition will support. But like everything, it has to be funded, has to be paid for. The Sinn Féin philosophy is that we can give you new benefits, new things for free, and someone else will pay. That's not honest. If we're going to keep the pension age at 66, and we are, if we're going to bring in new benefits for all workers, well, then it's only fair that the people who benefit from it, all of us, all workers, should contribute. And that's why we've adopted the approach that we have.
You talk about not honest. What about this one? Increases in PRSI is a tax on jobs, and that's why you shouldn't vote Sinn Féin. That was the words that you came out of your mouth. And what have you done now? You've increased PRSI, because we've always made it clear that these issues have to be funded. The right to retire on a pension used to exist when you were in government. It was your government that abolished it in 2014. And we're very clear, and we know what the outcome of the last election is. But let me be very clear, and I make it on this floor here, our pledge on behalf of Sinn Féin is that if we do get elected into government in the next election, we will give people the right to retire at the age of 65 if they so choose to. Why? Because we recognise that in the rain today, the brickie out there who's laying bricks and building the houses that we need deserves that choice. We know that the hairdresser who's been on our feet and on his feet since 9 o'clock this morning deserves that right, or the person who is slogging it out on the factory floor. That is the difference, and we have shown how it can be funded. So can I ask you, you've already made a U-turn because of the pressure that Sinn Féin put on you in the last election, and the fact that the people demanded that you abandon your proposals, what you legislated for, which was to increase pension age to 68. Why do you believe that that brickie today shouldn't have the right to retire at the age of 65, when he did have the right to retire 10 years ago at that age?
Thank you,
Deputy, as is so often the case, your passion is phony. Sinn Féin voted for the pension age to be 66 in Northern Ireland. Why should people in Northern Ireland have a different retirement age than people in the Republic of Ireland? Is it because there are two Sinn Féins? It just doesn't make sense, Deputy. And if you can't explain why you voted for 66 in Northern Ireland and advocate 65 in the Republic of Ireland, well, then I don't think you have a coherent case, Deputy. And what you have proposed in your manifesto, and it'll be interesting to see if you propose it again in your next manifesto, you proposed a massive increase in employers' PRSI, a 40% increase in employers' PRSI, and that would have been an anti-jobs measure. Absolutely true. That would have been an anti-jobs measure and would have cost jobs, Deputy. When it comes to the pension age and the retirement age, you and I were both born in the 1970s. Back in the 1970s, the pension age in Ireland was actually 70, and average life expectancy for a man was 68. All the calculations that go back to the 70s, 80s and 90s were based on the idea that people would pay into the Social Insurance Fund for 30, 40 years and only be retired for a few. That has fundamentally changed. People now live longer, they're retired for 20, 30 years. That's a great thing, but it has to be paid for.
Tommy Bugger. Right. Deputies, please. Could we do it?
Half the people over there can retire at full pension at the age of 50. That's the reality.
Deputy, please.
50 years will be able to take your full pension.
Deputy O'Doherty, please. Thank you. Could we just have a little respect for the role of the chair? Thank you. Moving on.